Hey everyone, welcome back to High Vibing It. Thanks for being here. Of course, I'm here with my bestie, Lindsay Robinson / co-host. And today we have a very special guest who just so happens to also to be named Kelsey. So hello,
Hey.
Kelsey Chapman. Welcome to the show. I'm so glad we have matching names because, that's pretty fun. And everyone needs to know that Kelsey is an author and a podcaster. Her expertise is basically scrappy marketing, but I would say even broader, her expertise is getting scrappy in life to produce the best results. So no matter what hand you're dealt, you can turn it into a thriving one and a really awesome one. So today on the podcast, we really kind of wanted to talk about how in life can we pivot and adapt when life throws you curveballs or misfortunes or things don't go your way, because Kelsey has a super inspirational story about this, which I think we can just dive into.
So before we forget again, we just got 2 amazing new Patreons who deserve a shout out. That was part of their benefit. So Keisha and Kimberly, welcome to our Patreon. If you guys want to sign up, go to patreon.com/highvibe and get all the benefits, which includes bonus content, extra products from Kelsey and I, and a lot of good times. So go sign up. Now, I'm so sorry. Kelsey Chapman, I'm really excited to talk to you. Go.
Well, I am so excited to be here, and go ahead, girls, with your Patreon. A little bit about me. I got started 5 years ago. I really just started an Instagram account because I wanted to write one day, but I kind of figured if I didn't have an audience, my writing would just be my journal. And so I knew I needed to build, and I had no money. My husband worked at Starbucks, and he was just kind of like, hey, I'm in school right now. I'm not contributing much. Can you just please break even? So that was the deal. I could do whatever it took. I just needed to break even at the end of the month. And so I kind of dove in, and I realized Facebook was pretty expensive already. Ads were already ramping up there. Pinterest felt a little bit overwhelming, and Instagram felt like the most malleable platform to grow at the time. So I started growing, and within a year, my friend and I shared an account at the time. We had grown 40,000 followers in a year. So I kind of started thinking through and realized I'm teaching all my friends how to do this. This is so fun. It makes me happy to see my friends be able to grow with no money because we were all broke. And I thought, I'm going to just start taking a client here and there. And quickly on Upwork, I became their top Instagram growth freelancer because I really specialized in growth. I kind of was like, you know what? Anyone and their mama can curate a beautiful feed. But if you don't have real relevant followers, especially in the season where people were starting to buy followers, it's like, hey, those people are never going to convert to a customer, reader, following along on your blog, whatever. Let's find you some real relevant people. So over the course of a few years, I ended up building my roster to 50 clients a month. I ended up having about 2,000 students go through my course. And by the time it all imploded, I had about $20,000 of income coming in a month from this Instagram agency that I never really meant to build. But I was too scared to let it go. I knew it was time to shift. I actually knew it was time to shift about a year prior. My body hurt all over every day. I was stressed all the time. People are obsessed with their followers, obsessed. I would get also, I don't think I knew what a boundary was till I was 29 years old. And so I would just answer texts from clients at 11:30 at night like it was life or death when it wasn't. And so I had created this monster, but it was such good money. And my husband was in school. And I just felt this pressure to keep delivering. And I, built the $10,000 website. I did the big course launch that cost a lot of money to launch. I would spend it. I wasn't saving it either. And so I knew things were changing with Instagram growth. It pretty much, the forecast looked like, hey, this is pretty much like Facebook. At some point, it's going to be pay to play. That is going to be the only way to grow. Nowadays, you can still get by with some giveaways, but aside from that, it was going to be pay to play. And I just couldn't keep up. They kept changing algorithms that basically would decrease what we could deliver to clients growth wise. And at some point we were priced out. I would have to charge $1,500 to grow. And at that point, someone could be running ads. So there was one big change about this time last year, and my income went from $20,000 a month to zero overnight. And it was the beginning of a serious journey on identity, a lot of money mindset work, and I think prepared me for this year, for the curveball that COVID threw us. None of us expected this. How could we ever have done this? But I'm really thankful for what I went through last year, because it prepared me to navigate this season with peace. And for as painful as that was, I would never take back the peace it's allowed me to operate with by doing the work.
So what happened?
So you basically, love it or hate it, my agency at the time implemented the follow unfollow strategy. I know some people hate it, but you can follow relevant people.
It was huge, you know, that's a huge thing. It worked. And
it was real. They were real people. If you really got into gaining quality followers, people could choose to follow back or not. But at some point, Instagram just kept decreasing the amount of people you could follow in a day. So it was 720. Then overnight they cut it to 360. And it's like, well, even if 10% of 360 follow back, that's still some growth in a day. And that was on a Wednesday. And then it was actually just over by Friday. It all happened in a week. And we were like, I had some of my best friends working for me. So that was also their jobs. I had clients trying to grow businesses.
Yeah.
I had clients that paid me a year in advance because they'd been with me for years. So that was awesome to pay back. And it was just over. It was over. And so there looked like I could maybe find some workarounds that weekend. And I was trying. And by Saturday, I just knew like this door is closed. Like it is time to pivot. And I was really scared. I had just gotten a book advance. So I had half of it, which meant a few months of, you know, operating expenses for my business and life. But it was kind of like, okay, what are we doing next? And it was a fascinating case study on what stress does to your body.
Right.
Because literally all of my body pain went away within 5 days. And I felt better not knowing where our family's income was going to come from, them making a lot of money and running 100 miles an hour a day, answering to everyone and operating with no boundaries.
That's actually a really, really good point, because we work under this, when you are deep in the thick of the business, there's no end, right? There's no light at the end of the tunnel. I'm going to be this stressed out for the rest of my life. And we've all been there. Like if you're under a deadline, or if you have like a million things to be doing, if you've overtaxed yourself in any way, shape, or form, you've felt this before. So to have that kind of floor drop out from underneath you is terrifying, but at the same time, all the weight is lifted as well, because you don't have that day in, day out stress of like all these people to please and all these expectations to fulfill. Now you just have to figure out the next step. So let's talk about that. Like, what was the next step for you? What did you have to wrap your brain around in order to be like, okay, action, let's do this?
Yeah. It got really quiet. I was used to running at such a pace that there was this like steady buzz. We have this infamous trip in our friend group where I was just a monster the whole time because I was so stressed. I had my 7 iPhones out on the little desk, making sure all the applications were running to make sure people were growing. Like I was a monster sometimes. And we still laugh about it. I'll still be like, I'm so sorry. I hope y'all will go to the Grand Canyon with me again. But, you know, the first order of business was contacting all of my clients and kind of offering refunds, getting all of that in shape. And then it got insanely quiet, and I thankfully had booked a ticket home to visit family, so it kind of kept me like busy enough, but like social busy, not work busy. So that gave me a few days to like cope a little bit with some friends around. And then thank God I had actually booked this money mindset girl. Her name's Jenna Lee. She's amazing. And you did all of these like energy money exercises. And I was about halfway in when this all fell apart. And we were sitting there working through all of I'm really scared this will all disappear overnight. I'm really scared something's going to change. What happens if this does change? What will we do? And so I was at the exact midway point when the floor fell out from under me. And it was it was really cool because not often do you get to practice all of the work you do. But I was like, okay.
I immediately want to say, like, thank you, universe, because what you were doing was aligning your energy with the energy of the universe, which will bring you exactly what you need. Not maybe what you think you want at the time, but it brought you exactly what you needed. And that is such a blessing and so amazing.
I 100% agree. Like, I was in a mastermind with someone, and she was a mentor in the mastermind, but one of my even skeptical friends was like, no, I booked with her and she changed my life. So I was like, well, cool. My days are ruled by anxiety about money. Sign me up, Jenna. And so I really was able to sit and do my exercises every day, clear energy. And I think you're exactly right. Like, it's exactly what I needed in that season. And it truly changed my life. So basically it just became like a big rabbit hole on identity because, I was telling you guys earlier, I'm an Enneagram 7. For me, money is not image. I don't care about that. I don't need to look like I'm successful to have this online presence or this online business, but money is freedom for me. And so freedom to do what I want, when I want, and to not answer to someone else. And so I really, really kind of hit rock bottom in the sense of like, what does this say about my freedom? What if I have to go work for someone else? What if I have to sell my house and need to like live on my friend's couch? And it was truly a humbling time. And it was also really special to see friends rally for me in a way, and family, but friends don't have to do that. And I remember a dinner where some friends looked at us and were like, hey, what do you need? Do you need money? You want us to get some money out? And just being like, wow, we have the best people. And I never put myself in a position of asking anything or needing anything from people because it's awkward and uncomfortable. And just to know I have friends that would show up for me like that was like, who cares if my business disappeared? The people around my table are what's most important, and I'll rebuild. We always do. And I surprised myself last year of how I rebuilt. But what I was more surprised by was how much happier of a person I was when I, didn't do everything that I felt like I had to do to maintain this lifestyle that I felt like I had to have.
It's funny when you take away the things that you have to do, it leaves no room except for the things you want to do. You know what I mean? Like, now I get to decide what I actually want to do because there's nothing that I have to do. And that is when the magic happens and you start to really start to get aligned.
It's been such a fun year. Honestly, I've been able to step into projects that have been so much more fulfilling. Mm-hmm. And I tested the waters a lot after, I had 3 months and it was like, okay, I had 6 months, maybe 4 months. And I knew my second half of my book advance was coming then. So I was like, okay, I have a total of 7 months here. And if we can't figure it out in 7 months, then we're selling the house and we will, live off a fraction of what we live off of. And we'll go live with some friends or family until we figure it out. And so I kind of felt like, okay, I have 7 months to figure this out. And I just started experimenting. I did some web design. I did some coaching. I had courses, but I wasn't running a ton of ads to them. I really just dabbled in a lot of things and was like, okay, I like web design, but I don't love it. So I'm not going to do this. And I like coaching, but I actually like a strategy session a lot more than a long-term coaching client. And it just gave me permission to figure out, what do I want? And because I have the experience of, I've done something I don't want to do for a lot of money. I'd rather just go get a day job than build a business again that I'm a slave to, that I don't actually enjoy. So for me, if I didn't like it, I just set it aside and was like, well, got a few more months. I'll go find a job if I have to. And slowly but surely I found my way of what I actually enjoyed and what I actually want to do. And it took some time to pan out. And it meant sometimes taking a tedious or a boring project to give myself a little more runway to figure out kind of my long game. But it really led me to where I am today. And it was also an interesting case study of like, sometimes like your dreams come true and your life's a wreck simultaneously. Like I was writing the book. I got
usually
the book deal. Yeah. Like I was writing the book. Like that's the only reason I got started with Instagram to begin with. But all of my income was disappearing except that one little chunk that I was now living off of.
Isn't that funny? You started this huge empire. I'm going to call it an empire, a little small empire. You started this empire based off of a beautiful, inspired idea that you had. And then that business kind of engulfed, in a way, all of your attention, all of your thought, all of your focus went to this thing that, like you said, grew. What did you say? You created a monster or something?
Yes.
It like grew out of control. And meanwhile, this beautiful, inspired idea is just kind of baking. It's just like becoming perfect for the perfect time for you to be able to really give it all your focus, bringing with you all of those new experiences.
100%.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Everything happens for a reason, guys, and in perfect timing.
Speaking of therapy, as you can tell, we're all big fans of therapy and doing therapeutic work because it can really help you and change your life. And it's always good to have someone in your corner cheering you on, especially someone who understands emotions and humanness and healing. So if that sounds like something you need, you definitely need to check out BetterHelp because they will assess your needs and match you with your own licensed professional therapist online, which is really cool because now you don't even have to leave your house to get help. And it is more affordable than traditional therapy, I've found, but same quality, even sometimes better quality of service, because in your immediate area, you might not have a special therapist that specializes in what you need. But when you bring it online, like they can match you with anyone that has any expertise or specialty. So that's something I really love about BetterHelp. They make therapy so accessible. They make it really, what's the word that I'm looking for, where they like destigmatize it, right? Like you don't have to be like a total mess to go to therapy, even though oftentimes we are. But it's like you can use therapy to help heal any sort of distress, whether it's small or large, or maybe you're just trying to work through some past stuff, or maybe you're just trying to get to your next level. Whatever it is, check out BetterHelp because it's an amazing resource.
If you guys want to start living happier today, go to betterhelp.com/vibin. That's betterhelp.com/VIBIN and get 10% off your first month just by being a wonderful listener of our show. Once more, that's betterhelp.com/vibin to get 10% off your first month. Go enjoy life. If that's not their motto, it should be. Go enjoy life. Follow the joy, Kelsey Chapman. You are illustrating that wonderfully, to follow the joy. And all along, the joy was there. So the big important question that I wanted to ask you is, if we knew that everything happens for a reason, and you were to look back on this period of your life, this era, what is the one takeaway that you feel like is the most important? Like when you look back on that, you think about this. It could be a lesson or just something that like came up for you. What do you think that would be? No pressure.
I think simultaneously it would be two kind of parallel roads. One would be like, you don't have to do anything that makes you miserable. Even if like, I mean, again, we kind of had built our life to these $20,000 months from barista budgets. And so I know what it's like to live off of $1,800 a month total.
Yeah.
Our first little apartment, and I have 2 college degrees, but our first little apartment was $400. And then everything else was, running off the Starbucks budget. So we had like $1,400.
Girl, I know all about the Starbucks budget.
Yeah.
I was a Starbucks employee for like 5 years and I rocked it, but I totally understand.
And you make it work. And we were happy. We were really happy then. And if you can't be happy on $1,800 a month, you can't be happy with $20,000. I promise you that. And so I think for me, like I never have to do anything again that makes me that unhappy, because I can go back to Starbucks and be really happy, know?
Right.
And I think it took me some therapy to get there. Cause again, what does it mean about my freedom? I wouldn't be able to travel as much. I might have to ask someone to take off, all of that. But it forced me to kind of really take a deep dive there. It also highlighted some codependent tendencies I have of just
surprise, surprise.
Wanting to please my clients, never setting any boundaries, all of that. And then another lesson I learned is I was a total bottleneck to my own business. I really thought I needed to be the one to do every single thing. It took me.
Oh God, you're talking to me. I know you are.
This is for me right now. The very last year to hire people. Until then, when I got started with growth, before there were any apps, and we never used like robots or anything.
Yeah.
My arms would hurt up to my elbows every single day. I would just ache because I'd be sitting there on my phone and I'm like, this is not what I envisioned when I envisioned freedom. But I couldn't really figure out how to delegate. And so now as I've kind of rebuilt some new structures, y'all heard from me with the podcasting stuff, I'm like, okay, every single thing I do, I'm like, how can I'm going to do the task probably like 10 rounds. And then after I've done it 10 times, I can hire someone to do this. Even if it means I take home less profit,
great.
I'm my own bottleneck. And so that's been a learning curve. I'm still usually learning at all times.
It's hard for us. I don't know about you, but I'm definitely one of those like control, I don't want to say freak, but control enthusiasts where I don't like Kelsey will say it for me. She is constantly, and I love you for this, she's constantly trying to like, how can we streamline this, Lindsay? Like, why are you making it so difficult? Why are you doing everything? And it is a challenge. And I think for a lot of people who kind of, I'm just going to say, learned from a young age that they need to have control over everything, or who knows what's going to happen. It's hard. It's hard for us to not have that. So it is definitely a process. And for anybody out there who's having trouble with this, I love that strategy. If I can do this 10 times, I can teach someone how to do this. That is beautiful. And I've never ever had that occur to me, but it's actually a really good idea.
Today's the day, Lindsay.
Today's the day.
It took me getting tested for lupus, fibromyalgia, all kinds of serious diseases because my body hurt all over from stress because I could not release control. And seriously, I would be doing blood work and they're like, let's test you for this. Like, this is abnormal I was 28. I was getting in bed at 4:00 in the afternoon sometimes, just aching all over.
What it sounds like is you were burned out for weeks before you actually listened to that signal that's like, hey, you're burned out. So instead of allowing you to take control, I'm just going to take it all away.
Yep.
You don't know how to play with Instagram. I'm going to take it away.
That's what I felt like it was. Like, you know what? You say you're going to, I kept making deals. Like when David's out of school, I'll notify everyone then, but this will be great till he's out of school. And I kept making these deals and I probably would have made them forever, honestly, and been miserable. And so here we are. I'm glad the Band-Aid was ripped off. I'm so much happier.
I love that. I love how your story just totally demonstrates like how the universe wants you to heal your control freakiness. And like, if you're not going to do it on your own, like some shitstorm is going to come for you and teach you how to release control, whether you like it or not.
100%.
And ultimately it is in your favor, but when you're going through it, it's going to feel like, what the fuck? Why is the universe against me? Like, what did I do?
Literal hell. It's what it felt like, but here we are.
So where are you, when you say here we are, so where are you now? Let's talk about the beautiful light at the end of the tunnel and where you are in your business and your adventures now.
Yeah, so I feel like I finally got to test the waters that year and come to a place of like what my specialty is helping people with some scrappy marketing strategy. Maybe that's a one-off session and they take it and they run with it. This podcast pitching agency was birthed out of this somewhat. I really fought it. I actually, we met because of one of our mutual friends and connections and clients, David Trotter. And I had just been really frustrated as an author that there are these PR agencies that you're stuck with a $6,000 retainer a month for 6 months, $36,000 to get on
in
podcast.
Less than a year.
And as you probably know, these big PR agencies pitched a podcast 3 weeks before a book's out. They don't think about, hey, we should be pitching 6 months. A lot of these podcasters are really scheduled out. And I just felt like I'm in it for the person who doesn't have $36,000. And probably, even if they did, shouldn't be spending that on podcast pitching. And, you know, from there, build that side of one of the services I offer. I was telling y'all before this, right now I'm on an online conference rabbit hole. You know, I just love, I love scrappy marketing strategies, which means they change all the time, but I think I'm well suited for that. I like seeing what's working right now. It might not work in 9 months, but I've had to pivot before and I'll do it again. So it's just fun.
I like that attitude of like how life has thrown you so many curveballs that now you trust yourself like to such a strong degree that you're like, well, I can feel safe in my life even if my life is crazy because I know like how resilient I am because I've shown that to myself like over and over and over.
Exactly what you just said. Like it's shown me I can trust myself. And when it gets quiet of like, ooh, there's a little gap, like I don't have a client on the calendar or I don't have, you know, this project I'm working on, I've learned to trust the process in the sense of like, oh, like it will come. And one of my mentors, she's literally the best. I think I've moved to Colorado for her to be in my life, but she has always said to me, like, when shit hits the fan, like you can choose to believe that it's all going to fall apart, or you can choose to believe in upgrades around the corner. And so I've really just made it my life's mission to like, well, it's miserable to believe your life's falling apart. So like, even if you're wrong, it's worth choosing the option of an upgrades around the corner. And it tends to work for me.
But here's the thing. It's never wrong. If you believe it, it's never wrong. Like
that's what I found.
It's become like default. Like, oh, this isn't exactly what I wanted. So there must be something better coming. You know what I mean? Like, and once you start to practice, it's going to be practice. It's going to be conscious practice at the beginning, but then it will become automatic. And that is exactly what you need to do in order for the universe to be like, yep, check, it's coming. You know what I mean?
I will say I 100% agree. Like it used to be a little scary and like, I kind of don't even know if I believe that an upgrade's around the corner, but I'm choosing to believe.
Yes.
And now it is default. It's natural and it always happens. Doesn't mean I'm exempt from hard things in my life, but I'm able to take it in stride.
I love that. Sorry, Kelsey, I thought you were going to say something. Go ahead.
I was just taking a second to get there. I was going to say that I really love how you're demonstrating that life is partially about your circumstances, but more so your life experience, your reality is going to be the same quality as the stories that you create about your circumstances and about your life and about yourself. Because like you said, you can believe, oh, this is the end, everything's falling apart, why me? And you can be there for a few minutes. Like we all understand that when you are the victim to a horrible circumstance. But then when you're ready to feel better, pivoting to that perception of, you know, maybe this is an opportunity for creating space for something new in my life. Maybe I am about to have this new idea and upgrade my life in some way. And so it really does just come down to your perception at the end of the day. And that's going to determine the quality of your life experience, regardless of what circumstances you're dealt.
Yeah, like I'm sure like you two can agree. We've all had hard things happen. I'm not pretending they didn't happen, but I actually, instead of just wallowing in that, I'm choosing to just learn from it. Like, cool, that guy, I'm so glad I didn't end up with a guy. He taught me that I don't really like liars, you know?
Right.
Narcissist, no thank you. I want to marry a nice guy. You know,
right.
That hard thing in childhood that happened, it showed me, you know what? My parents are killing it in these other departments. No one can hit it out of the park 100% of the time. So I'm going to take the good parts and I'll just revamp the not so great.
And how about this? How about this one? This was mine. Look how strong I am to be able to be where I am right now, despite everything. That must be a reflection of how strong I am. That's awesome.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah. And here's the thing that I wanted to mention before, like you always have a choice. Like you said, Kelsey Chapman, you said, I may have said it in the past when I didn't actually believe it, but I chose to say it and think it anyway. And even if you can't say there's something better out there for me, I just know it with conviction. What you can say, what everyone can say is, what if, like Kelsey said, what if this was working out to my benefit? How amazing would that be? And just play with that idea because, oh my gosh, it feels better. Like, why not?
Yeah, and we can all look around. We all know the negative people in our life that tend to just attract more negativity. I mean, I think the three of us are pretty down with the woo and understand manifestation, but for someone who's just a practical, like data-driven person, like if you look at the data of a negative person, they attract more negativity. If you look at the data of a positive person, they attract more positivity. So you choose.
Yeah, you get to choose. That's the beauty of life.
Right.
And that's what me and Kelsey try to reteach people and help them remember is you always get to choose.
Yeah, and you don't get to choose every single aspect of your life, but you do get to choose the lens which you're looking through. Like and actually, I'm going to correct myself because you don't always get to choose your lens because a lot of it is programming. A lot of it is subconscious. A lot of it is from your pain and your trauma. But it's about becoming aware of that, and then you can choose.
That's Step 1, observe and aware without judgment, and then step 2, you get to actually pick up the controller and start playing and figure some stuff out.
And the other important thing I want to say that's coming to me as we have this conversation, and I feel like it's just a message to everyone from the greater universe, really, is just like, give yourself credit for simply surviving, like what you've survived, because we really don't give ourselves credit unless we achieve something amazing or something wonderful or something external or a lot of money or a marriage or whatever it is. But it's like, what about all those really hard days where you just survived? Like, that's a huge accomplishment. You need to give yourself some credit.
You know that saying, like, you've survived 100% of your bad days, like 100% of your trauma and bad days, you've survived because you're sitting here right now, wherever you're sitting. So yeah, Kelsey, you have it completely right. Give yourself some credit and just take a moment. Imagine if that was your best friend, like how in awe would you be of that person, and try to just practice a little bit of that on yourself. It will never be a bad thing, and it will always be benefit. Always.
Yeah, because there are some people who don't survive their worst days, you know? They go to the drugs and they have an overdose. They jump from the bridge. Like, sorry to be morbid here, but this is true. Like, not everybody survives all their worst days. Like, you're really, really resilient for having the courage to get through that and not just hit the stop button on your life.
Exactly. Jeez,
and I think a lot of people listening who are sensitive have had thoughts, maybe they're not true intentions of doing that, but everyone's had those days where like, oh, it'd just be so much easier if I could just stop here. Like, this is just not what it's about. Like, this is not how it's supposed to be. I don't understand. I don't see the way out, but like, there always is a way, you guys. I can't tell you how many people will write me from my blog and be like, your one article gave me just enough hope so that I didn't pull the plug. And that to me is like, yes, that's what you need. You only need a little bit of hope. You only need a little bit of openness to possibility in order to keep going and find the strength.
I've never had thoughts where like, I don't think I've ever had thoughts where I'm like, I wish I could just stop my life. What I have had, and what I still am very frustrated we don't have this, is Alt delete, is like undo, like Control Z on a certain thing. Like, why can't we just like flip backwards like 5 minutes before that one thing happened, you know? But now I just look back and I'm like, well, no, because I wouldn't be sitting here right now. And I like this person. I don't know who that other person is that didn't have all this stuff happen to them. And I don't know what that would be like. I'm an expert at this. I can do this. So yeah, I know Kelsey, you have, Aida, but I've always just wanted an undo button. Just give me undo. That's all I need.
Mine is, I'm an escapist by nature. And so I will never forget, like my dad growing up would say, don't wish life away, which we have the same personality. So it makes sense that he says
he
that.
Gets you.
And I just like wish for anything painful or negative or not fun or boring to just, can we just speed through this and get on to something better? But then it's like you look up and half your life's gone, and it's like, okay, like my work to do is to be present even when it's painful. And I hate pain. But
we all do. It's natural.
You know.
I just fall back on the idea that like nobody came here to avoid pain. Nobody.
Yeah.
Why would you? It's pointless.
And anyone
to experience it all.
And anyone who's listening to this show really values feeling good, because this type of information, self-empowerment, obviously the ultimate goal is to feel better, but to feel better doesn't mean to be happy all the time.
Right.
There is a big distinction between having a really full, happy, inspired, joyous life and just completely avoiding pain, which also, by the way, is impossible if you haven't already done this up until this point.
I'm an expert in avoiding pain, and I'll tell you, you can't avoid it.
Yeah. Promise. Even if you're the best, like Kelsey, you can't do it still.
It's actually impossible. So I recommend getting a therapist right now and facing it.
Yes. Back to the BetterHelp plug. Please use your resources. We have discounts.
Yeah.
We really believe in everything we tell you to go and do. Like, I promise you.
And one of my favorite things that we say often is if you could sit, okay, so if you're not dealing with your pain, you're still feeling it on some level. Like, for example, Kelsey Chapman, you didn't deal with the stress, and so it was physically manifesting. And emotional pain does that as well. I mean, that's what stress is, essentially. So if you can sit with your emotion, the hard one that you won't look at or acknowledge, if you can sit with that for 5 minutes, you will do more progress and you will do more processing and integrating in those 5 minutes than you have been while still feeling a lower level of this anxiety, pain, emotional trauma, whatever, in the past, however many years you've been living with it, because by avoiding it, you're still feeling it to some degree. It might be duller, it might be pushed down, but you're still feeling it. So if you can just allow that to come up and sit with it, oh my gosh, that's all you're going to need. Usually a lot of times that's all you need is to just listen. Listen to it. What is it trying to say? But it might be a little bit off topic, but I wanted to say it anyway because I feel like it might be relevant.
Worth it.
Yeah, I don't think it's off topic. I think it's perfectly on topic. Speaking
of me,
the topic that we're talking about, Kelsey, I want to ask you if you could go back in time, or maybe let's put someone else in a similar scenario. If someone else is going through something right now and they're just really struggling, the rug's been pulled out from under them, they don't know what's going to happen next, they're really feeling like the victim here, what are some soothing words that you would offer to them when they're at the bottom?
Oh man. Well, first, it's not always going to be this bad. It's not always going to be this painful. But I do encourage you to be present in this pain and not try to escape it. It just drags it out and makes it worse, let me tell you. But to really be present, if you have the resources to get a therapist, get a therapist. But you know what? I found a therapist that's not like your traditional therapist for a year that I traded social media services with. I was like, I need therapy every week and this is expensive. So like find someone, if it's not a therapist, if you can't afford that, find a mentor to help walk you through this. Because I really couldn't have done it alone and without inviting people in. And it was very humbling and very vulnerable. But it's not going to last forever. And I really encourage you to just seek input from a trusted voice to carry you on the hard days. Because sometimes your friends can't hold space for that, or your partner. They just might not have the capacity. My husband and I, that actually started with my best friend and I, have a saying that is like, hey, I'll meet you in the boat, but like you can't swamp it every time, And so sometimes if you catch yourself swamping the boat with everyone, like, again, find yourself a therapist or a mentor, someone that can help you carry this.
Hey there, thanks for watching this video. If you'd like to watch the extended version where you get the full podcast episode in a video format, just go to patreon.com/highvibe. The link is in the description. That's where you can become a supporter of the show, listen to all the episodes via video format, and each week you get extended versions of the show, meaning you get to see the pregame behind the scenes, and also you get an extended interview with whoever we're guesting, or if it's me and Lindsay, we usually pull cards for you guys, fun stuff like that. So go check it out. There's lots of cool goodies, including a free copy of my book, a free audio hypnosis from Lindsay. She's a hypnotherapist. And yeah, we just want to give you all the goods, all the content. So head over to patreon.com/highvibe to become a Patreon.
Or if you'd rather listen to the rest of this episode, head over to highvibeinit.com where you'll see all the links to everywhere that it's getting streamed. Click your favorite one and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Thanks for listening.